Right, there you heard him. Let's cross live now to Devon Murrigan in Parliament. Well, just outside, and it looks like the weather at least is playing ball. Devon, you've spoken about the issues, credibility, very important. SOEs and rating agencies want the safe path set out by the former Finance Minister, but of course there's calls for free education, NHI, nuclear perhaps. Are we any closer at the moment to knowing what he will try and do as he balances all these priorities today?
Well, we can only guess, Francis. Good afternoon. Weather is cleared here in Parliament, but of course the wind is still hovering around and may interfere with this mic in front of me. But you pointed it out quite correctly. I mean, there's a mixed bag of concerns for the newly promoted Finance Minister, and he has to do two things, really. I've been talking about this through the morning. He has to manage the perception of his credibility this afternoon, and while doing that, he has to, of course, speak about the nuts and bolts on the economy. Here we have an economy that's hovering around the growth of 0.5%. We know that Treasury had said this economy may grow at about 1.3%, but you've seen that the prospects for growth had all but dimmed this year, bringing it down to that 0.5% mark. All the time when the economy internationally, the world economy that is actually ticking up. So that points to the fact that here locally we have some domestic issues, and those domestic issues is stunning confidence. And that confidence, of course, has a direct bearing on investment. That's one of the reasons why we can't get enough money into the country to actually boost the economy. So he's dealing with an economy that is very weak at the moment, not good news for jobs. But let's try and break down the numbers, because at the same time you have revenue that's up to 30 to 60 billion rand short, and that doesn't say very much for the fiscus. Let's try and get some understanding now of what that actually means. Johann Els, Old Mutual economist, joins us. It's a tough or mixed bag of concerns for the Finance Minister this afternoon. He's got a credibility issue that he needs to address, but of course it's the nuts and bolts of the economy, as I said. Johann, what for you is going to actually make this medium or mid-term budget, a policy statement, somewhat okay this afternoon?
Yeah, we're looking to the Minister to address all those issues, and as you say, with growth coming out a lot weaker, that shortfall in terms of tax revenue is really the big issue. So to sort of satisfy investors, ratings agencies, it's really a tough act for the Minister. I certainly don't want to be in his shoes. But he has to come out and show that government, Treasury himself, that they still want to follow the path of fiscal consolidation. So he's got a tough position that he's in terms of showing us that he's going to reduce the deficit over the next few years, even though this current year's deficit might come out a lot bigger than what he said or the previous minister said in February. So from 3.1% possible deficit, he's probably ballooning towards 4%. And now crucially he has to show us that he's going to continue to reduce that, but also how is he going to do that? And investors and ratings agencies will look towards that and say, is that credible or not?
Let's talk about the manner in which he demonstrates this, because I mean you have an issue of state-owned enterprises as well. That adds to a trust deficit where people feel that, you know, perhaps there's just not that vigor that is required to improve the governance of state-owned enterprises. It's all well and good to feed them money, but if we don't sustain them or get them on the right governance path, we've got a problem. So the big elephant in the room is SAA at the moment. What do you expect there? Where's the money going to come from?
Yes, SAA, I think certainly the Minister needs to sort out that they're not going to finance SAA so that finance adds on to the budget deficit. The policy has been to do it in a deficit neutral way. In other words, they have to sell something to get the money to finance SAA. And that is crucial for the market to show that that's what they continue to do. And I don't know whether that's selling off the stake in Telkom or whatever, but he needs to show that financing SAA, or for that matter other state-owned enterprises, doesn't add to the deficit. Because in the end it comes back to us as taxpayers. It comes back to the government's debt that continues much higher than what ratings agencies say is a safe or healthy way. So it comes back to us. So we don't want that.
You've mentioned ratings agencies more than once in your answer, and I think it's very important because ideally or ultimately, if rating agencies are not impressed, you're going to get the downgrade. We've already seen 2 downgrades this year on our foreign debt. But many point out to the fact that the big one, the big fear would be if our local currency debt is downgraded. You could see capital outflows in that regard. Ideally, what would be the most comforting statements that could happen today that would sort of calm the fears of rating agencies?
I think, firstly, the Minister needs to show perhaps that the deficit isn't as big as what the market fears. So if he comes out with a deficit below 4%, that'll probably be okay. But he needs then to show that we're going to cut expenditure, not only raise taxes. We know he's going to raise taxes. He needs to show how that path is going to go forward. He needs to be strong and really vigilant about governance at state-owned enterprises. Those could pacify the ratings agencies so that they probably won't downgrade the local government debt later this year in November when they've got another round. Then they probably will wait until after the ANC's elective conference to see what happens there, and then the February budget. But I think the danger hasn't gone away. We certainly still sit with that risk of a local currency ratings downgrade.
I've got a few more seconds, and I got to ask you before you go, the credibility issue on Malusi Gigaba. I mean, that is directly linked to business confidence. How important is it today that he makes this astute stand against state capture and corruption?
He needs to be very strong indeed. He needs to show that he's not captured. I don't know if that's politically possible for him. I don't know whether he has been captured. But the Minister needs to show the public today that he's going to be strong against this, because we all know the public is going to suffer if state capture continues.
Johann Els, economist at Old Mutual, thanks indeed for talking to us. Here in Parliament, we're going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, we'll try and get the issue of tax tackled. Stay with us.